furthering the mission of developing students who focus on excellence in academics, leadership, character development, and competition as a vital part of the educational experience. These are the members of our community who rarely say no to our kids.
I'd like to recognize the members of our board. These are the other people responsible for this very special night. I'd ask them to please stand and be recognized because, believe me, this night could not have happened without each and every one of them. Treasurer Greg Eide. Secretary Ron Richards. And our members at large, Dan Farrington, Mike McGann, and Bill McNutt. Finally, a very special shout out to Dan Mills, who handled all things related to our website. Our board grew up in a time when an electric typewriter was pretty high tech. We couldn't have pulled this off without Dan's expertise and more, and I mean more, than generous offering of his time. At this time, it gives me great pleasure to introduce a man steeped in Salem-Keizer and Salem-Keizer athletics. Mark Gilman has been surrounded by sports his entire life. His dad, Jerry, who is here tonight, was a longtime math teacher and coach in Salem-Keizer. In fact, Mark's dad was a member of Beacon honoree Marv Heater's coaching staff at South Salem High School. Well, that apple didn't fall far from the tree. Mark Gilman is a man who loves athletics in general, and he loves high school sports in particular. Mark has been the voice of many activities and for many events over the course of his career. Notably, he's served as the play-by-play announcer for the Salem-Keizer Volcanoes, and to this day, including last night, I might add, you will see Mark at our fields and in our gyms, broadcasting high school sports contests for local radio station KBZY. Ladies and gentlemen, a graduate of Sprague High School and a longtime language arts teacher at North Salem High School, our Master of Ceremonies, Mark Gilman.
That means I'm going to have to actually come up with something to say here. Everybody enjoy your meals tonight? If you didn't finish your steak, I know a couple of guys that'll help you with that. It's now time to introduce our keynote speaker. Bruce Brown is currently the Director of Proactive Coaching, and he spent over 35 years as a teacher, coach, and administrator at the junior high, high school, and collegiate level. A former national presenter for the NAIA's Champions of Character program, he continues to speak nationally to athletes, coaches, parents, school districts, and corporations in his role as Director of Proactive Coaching. In addition to the hundreds of sports clinics, leadership summits, and academic conferences, Bruce also gives presentations to businesses across the country. Coach Brown has authored 11 books, 15 coaching booklets, and has produced 12 instructional coaching DVDs. Bruce and his wife, Dana, live in the state of Washington, and we've got him here tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, Bruce Brown.
So I was speaking in a large convention, a coaching convention in Dallas, and it was in a gigantic convention center. It was so big they had two large conventions going on at the same time. And so I'm kind of in a place where I could see people going that direction or this direction. And the people that were all going that direction were all kind of like this. And the people going my direction were coaches. A lot of life. people who have a heart for kids, people who have a heart for this profession. So I just needed to find out where those other people were going. So I finally walked down the hall when I had a break, and I saw the sign said, "Surviving a Medicaid and Medicare Fraud Audit." And I thought, I am so glad I'm with people who have that heart for kids. Dana and I are very honored to be with you tonight and to get this started. I started off on this topic. I ended up writing a booklet on what I'm going to speak on, but I started off with a premise. When I was doing a lot of traveling and you're out to dinner with people, and you're usually with people who are very successful in their community, and I started asking those people questions, these very, very successful people. What happened along the way, especially when you were an adolescent, what happened along the way that allowed you to be where you are? And my premise for my book was going to be being on an athletic team was going to lead to success further in life. That's what I was hoping to write about. And as I was asking these people, there were some that talked about their team, but about 90% of people, when they started talking about the turning point in their life, named a person or two people. Well, there was this coach. Well, there was this teacher, or I had a mentor. People, they got down to one person, and they could go right back in time to that person and where it was. And so when I say the word coaches tonight, I'm really talking about teachers as well. And I'm talking about mentors, any of us in this audience who are mentors to young people. So these same principles apply, the difference makers in young people's life. So what is it about those people that make somebody say, well, there was this mentor, there was this coach? And honestly, I think it's 7 concepts of motivation. I'm only going to talk about 2 of them tonight. But there are 7 concepts in the booklet that I wrote on this. And basically, it gets down to those people motivate through love and through modeling, and therefore they get every ounce of attention and energy from their kids. In other words, they get people to do everything they're capable of and enjoy it. If you look at the great motivators, if you think back to the best teacher you ever had in your life, I can describe her right now. Tough, nice. Tough, they demanded from you like crazy, but you did it in a way, they demanded in a way that didn't want to have you let them down. And so here they were, they're life changers. So I identified 7 concepts that I think that these people exemplified when I was talking to these successful people as they look back. The 2 that I'm going to talk about tonight, the first one is called visualizing success. Small successes leading to larger successes. And the quote is there. It taught me to have a vision for my own life. This person's vision was so clear that it taught me to have a vision for my own life. The power of a clear and solid vision is really motivation all by itself. And so what we tell coaches and what we tell teachers is to find and celebrate those small successes. Visualize and practice success every day. Practice success with young people every single day. We put our young people in positions where they can succeed and where they can thrive. And when you build on a foundation of those successes, what it does is allow them to reach for higher goals, to continue to stretch themselves and try to get better, to maintain a growth mindset. When they see they can succeed in small ways, they're more willing to take risks. And that's something we want to do. We want them taking healthy risks, good risks. And so this is the opportunity to do this. When you're dealing with young people, particularly those people, kids who are in situations where their situation to them appears hopeless. These people were dealers in hope. This teacher that you had, this coach that you had, this mentor you had, they're dealers in hope. And that's the greatest of all visions. When you're hiring adults, you look for a successful track record. But when you're working with young people, one of the keys to both individual and team motivation is what I call visualizing the finished product. Visualize the finished product is the only sign I ever had in my when I was teaching weight training. It's the only sign I ever had in there. Visualize the finished product. I don't care how skinny you are. Visualize where you want to go to see what that person can become. And how many of us as adults look back to a turning point in our life where one adult believed in them, where just one adult maybe believed in them, maybe even when they didn't even believe in themselves. So what we want to have is people who see beyond today in kids' lives. Everybody loves a proven winner. You know, it's very easy to have faith in people who've already proven themselves. But one of the keys for motivation and changing lives is this: to believe in people before they're successful. Believe in them before they're successful. Now I'm a grandfather, and it's even a greater responsibility than ever. Almost every kid, if you could walk to any young person in your life and you ask them to do this, take every meaningful adult in your life, 15-year-old, take every meaningful adult in your life, teachers, coaches, aunts, uncles, parents, neighbors, pastors, whatever. Take every adult in your life where you have a meaningful relationship and put them in one of these two categories: confidence builder or confidence cutter. No in between. They're either a confidence builder or a confidence cutter. If they'd make that list, they'd go like this, faster than they could text. They can put us in one of those categories. They will put us in a confidence builder or a confidence category almost immediately, and it's pretty difficult to get out of that confidence cutter category. I honestly believe that all most young people need to walk through life confidently are two things. Now think about this for yourself. If you're walking through life confidently, I think it comes down to two things. At least one adult in your family who loves you unconditionally. And then the second thing is at least one adult outside your family who loves you and believes in you. And I'll bet every one of us in this room can go back and identify the person or people in our family who loved us unconditionally. But it's going to be equally easy for us to go back and identify that person who was outside our family, who believed in us. Again, like I said, maybe before I even believed in myself, or those kids think exactly that way. We need to be optimists when it comes to young people. Pessimism does not inspire anybody. I was speaking in Canada, it's been a couple of years now, and I had some time, and where I was speaking was very close to a nursery. So I was just taking a walk through this nursery, and I came across a sign that said this: the best time to plant a tree was 25 years ago. The second best time is today. Plant that seed of hope today in our kids' lives. See who they can become. So we're celebrating those small successes. We're building a foundation of those things and seeing beyond today in their lives. I was one of the last public school teams I coached. Look at those guys, man. Bunch of scrawny little dogs. Man, they could play. They could play. They were freshmen in high school. Look at them. What do you think? They're skinny little guys. What do you see? Here's what I see. I see 8 very successful business owners. I see a PhD. I see 2 high school coaches. I see probably about 15 kids of their own children now. I see a guy who was a first-round draft pick in the NBA. Yeah, drafted 17th in the first round. And can you pick him out? Nope. But he's in there. I see a kid who was the last kid I kept talent-wise, but I loved him so much because of his heart. He's a little guy on the left in the front. He pitched 7 years in the major leagues. Who would have believed it? See them what they're going to become, not who they are. If you look very closely in that picture, there's a fireman. There's all kinds of good kids, but if you look very closely in that picture, and I'm not even going to tell you which one he is, there's a Navy SEAL that was there when they got bin Laden. He was in the room. Who would have thought when he was just a smiling little kid? So many things that if we can see beyond today in our kids' lives, what a gift that is to them. Kids never forget that. They never forget the people who believed in them. The first concept of motivation, of difference makers, is to visualize success and believe in them so they can believe in themselves. Second concept is conduct flows out of character. Those of us who are adults have an unbelievable responsibility to teach, model, and reward integrity. Every day, in everything we do, we need to surround our young people with people of character. I've had a privilege of speaking at West Point 3 different times. If you ever have any doubts about the future of our country, go spend 5 days with 4,000 cadets. You just walk taller. It's just different. But read that. There was this coach who showed me what you stood for. They show you what they stand for. Leaders show their strength, and you're all leaders. Leaders show their strength in tough decisions. One of the questions I ask as a college athletic director for every coaching position that I ever interviewed for was this. As a coach, what will you compromise and what will you never compromise? I want to know their boundaries. What will you compromise? What will you never compromise? And you know what? The young people that are watching you know exactly what you'll compromise and what you'll never compromise. A person of integrity is basically depth of character. It's a solid foundation. It's keeping your commitments. It's purity of intent. There's a whole lot about integrity, fulfilling our intentions with the actions, and just the courage to act out our convictions and our beliefs. So another question is, do your beliefs and your actions align? And my guess, there's a whole room full of people here because of your success. That's exactly one of the reasons why you're here. When I'm teaching integrity to young kids, I say this. Your yes means yes, your no means no. Your handshake seals the deal. Your word is good. Your signature has value. You are who you say you are, regardless of where we see you. If you're a person of integrity, your life is not easier, but it's simpler. That's another thing I try to teach. If you're a person of integrity, your life is not easier, but it's simpler. I don't care how strong your character is, we're all going to still be faced with ethical dilemmas on a daily basis. But if you're a person of integrity, it's pretty simple, because all you have to do is filter it through this. What's the right thing to do? What a simple way to live. What a great way to live, and what a great example for young people to have people they can watch like that. The weaker a person is, the easier it is for them to defeat their conscience. Strong people, you can't do that. All of us have this choice. We can adjust our actions to meet our principles, or we can adjust our principles to meet our actions. We need people in leadership positions who adjust all their actions to meet their beliefs and their standards, and not the other way around. I was speaking at a national championship in Kansas City, and the organization that had me there had me speaking with all kinds of different groups. 3 or 4 times a day I was meeting with different groups who they were bringing in and wanted me to speak on specific topics. And there was one afternoon they brought in 8 young men, seniors in high school, from different schools from the tough area of Kansas City. They're all athletes. They're all leaders in their school. And they brought these 8 young men in, and I don't know how well they even knew each other. And I was supposed to talk to them about integrity. That's all they wanted me to talk. I was like, yeah, this would be fun. These 8 young men came in. I'll tell you what, they were intelligent. They were delightful to be with. They were humorous. They were just alive. It was really fun being with them. And I went through the defining integrity as carefully as I could, as clearly as I could to define integrity, because the clearer we can define things, the better chance kids have to rise to them. So I went through this whole thing on defining integrity, and then I said, okay, now I want you to do this. Let's go around the table. I'd like to have every one of you name a person in your life who's a person of integrity. Because where I was going with that was this. Walk in their shadow. Stay close when there's struggles going on. Watch how they deal with every situation when life is not easy. Stay close and watch. That's where I was going. So I asked these young men, let's go around the table. Let's have everyone, now that you've heard a description, a definition of integrity, let's all name a person in your life who's a person of integrity. And these 8 young men who had been very interactive and very just going like crazy, all went like this. And I was getting sick to my stomach because they were thinking, how long would it take you to answer that question? It'd take me a millisecond to say my wife. You're talking about my wife. We could all name people immediately, couldn't we? People who are people of integrity. These young men were struggling. And finally, this one kid looked up and he said, "You know what, Coach? I think Josh is." And he pointed down the table to a 23-year-old youth pastor who had picked him up and brought him. And I thought, good for you, Josh. But where my heart was here. How'd you like to have been one of those kids' dads? And they couldn't say, "You're talking about my pop." How'd you like to have been one of those kids' grandpas or grandmas? And they couldn't just immediately name you. How'd you like to be one of those kids' coaches? And they couldn't immediately say, "You're talking about my coach. That's exactly who he is. That's exactly who she is." Or a teacher. It can't be that difficult. You know where kids learn integrity? You know where young people learn integrity? By watching adults. They'll hear what we say. They'll believe what we do. People of character. The most vital and indispensable characteristic quality of leadership is integrity. When I'm talking to college athletes or professional athletes when they're in integrity and they're a little bit more mature, I say this to them: if you have integrity, nothing else matters. And if you don't have integrity, nothing else matters. If you don't have it right now, forgive yourself, but make the change. Become that person that people can look up to. There's one of my favorite teams we work with is Vanderbilt baseball. Coach Corbin is an amazing man, amazing leader, amazing model. I love this quote. Who's that for you? For how many kids in your life is that you? Would they think about you when they read something like that? The two things we talked about tonight, the different concepts of motivation, are right there. I want to thank you for allowing me to be here, and my wife and Dan and I were just really blessed to be here with you. I also want to say that when your time on earth is ended, you'll not be measured by your win-loss record. You'll not be measured by your possessions or what you think of yourself. Be measured by the impact that you have on other people. That's the measuring stick. And what we're asking you to do tonight is to really think beyond success and think about significance. Thank you for being people of significance in this community. That's what this gathering is. It's people of significance, impacting kids' lives. I want to thank you very, very much for the opportunity to be here.
Thank you, Bruce. And I can attest, knowing so many of you out here, that this applies to you. And I'm sure there are players and students who would agree wholeheartedly. Keep doing it, because we know you're not just doing it for your win-loss record. Well, it's time now for our main event as we honor our school beacons in this first annual event. We're going to start, we've got two categories, and the first one are the school beacons. They're people identified by each school have been involved in their respective athletic programs. These are people who have or may still be furthering the mission of developing students who focus on excellence in academics, leadership, character development, and competition as a vital part of the educational experience. These distinguished beacons can range from great Salem-Keizer athletes to outstanding coaches to dedicated school supporters. Each one of them are proud Royal Scots, Celtics, Vikings, Saxons, Olympians, and Titans. We've got a number of them to honor tonight. We will begin with Dick Belloc.
athlete, coach, official, athletic director, administrator. There are many ways to influence high school sports. There are not many who have done it all, but Dick Belloc has.
I suppose I had some great role models, basically my father. My father was my high school wrestling coach. I was involved in athletics or around athletics from the time I was born.
Belloc graduated from North Salem High School in 1965. While a student athlete at North, he earned 7 varsity letters, 2 in football, 3 in wrestling, and 2 in track and field. Dick earned first-team all-conference honors in football and qualified for the state wrestling tournament. From North Salem, he went on to wrestle at the University of Oregon from 1965 through 69, lettering 2 seasons.
Fortunately for me, I was surrounded by very good people, good friends. We all learned values that go on for education, that kind of thing, and got me into the education field where I wanted to continue that.
After graduating from the U of O in 69, Belloc came back to Salem-Keizer, teaching PE at Waldo Middle School, where he also coached football, wrestling, and track and field.
I encourage any kid in high school, junior high school or middle school, whatever, to get involved in school activities. You don't have to be an athlete. You don't have to be the brightest kid in the school. But anytime you're involved in school activities, you're going to find people who have the same kind of interests. Those kind of interests are going to lead to friendships that you're going to have.
His wrestling teams at Waldo went undefeated 9 consecutive years. In 1979, Belloc moved to the brand new McKay High School as the first wrestling coach for the Royal Scots. He coached wrestling for the next 11 years, also coaching cross country and football during that time. In 1991, Dick accepted a new challenge as McKay's athletic director. In his new position, Belloc sought the best coaches and worked with them to serve the student athletes at McKay.
I just wanted to be one of those kind of mentors to other kids, and lessons I'd learned what not to do from previous coaches, and to do the best thing I could for kids, there in the rest of my life.
While serving as McKay AD, Belloc also sat on several committees for the Oregon School Activities Association. He was also responsible for the organization, coordination, and implementation of the annual Valley League Conference Wrestling Tournament held annually at the Armory in Salem. As if this wasn't enough, Belloc also found time to speak at the National Athletic Directors Conference and complete a number of physical upgrades at McKay High School, including the improvement of the football field press box, which was the equal of any small college facility at the time. In 2001, Belloc left McKay High School to become the first athletic director at West Salem High School. He had a hand in planning everything from the layout of physical plant to the school colors and the mascot, as well as hiring the first coaches for the school, many of whom still work at West. As if that wasn't enough, Belloc also served as a wrestling official, officiating 10 Valley League tournaments and 9 OSAA state championship tournaments, in addition to collegiate-level wrestling in the Pac-10 Conference. Belloc also served 2 years as the local wrestling commissioner, training and assigning officials for wrestling. In recognition of his efforts, Dick was inducted into the Oregon chapter of the National Wrestling Hall of Fame in 2014 for his service to the sport of wrestling. After 2 busy years as AD at West Salem High School, Dick retired. But he has been far from idle, serving as a color commentator for district wrestling championships on Capital Community Television locally, and also officiating wrestling championships in Arizona.
Basically, I've learned that hard work pays off. You keep with whatever you're trying to do and you see it through. And, I just learned that if you surround yourself with good people who are involved in activities, then you're going to do okay in life.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dick Belloc. Thank you, Dick. Our next beacon tonight, Kim Phillips.
Kim Clarkson started instructing others as a ninth grader at Boise High School in Idaho by demonstrating to her classmates how to safely perform on a trampoline. It was just the beginning of an incredible teaching and coaching career.
I grew up in an athletic family. I had an opportunity to try a lot of different things, and my parents let me pick what I wanted to do after given the opportunity.
Known to her Salem-Keizer community as Kim Phillips, she grew up in Boise, Idaho as the daughter of a nurse and a teacher and was a multi-sport athlete, lettering in volleyball, basketball, and tennis.
Well, I just remember when I was in high school, I had a hot head, and I was very competitive, and sometimes I was too competitive. And so what that taught me when I started coaching is to tone the kids down. They needed to be dedicated, they needed to be competitive, but there was a time to stop. And if they would act up on the court or in the pool, I'd pull them out and I'd talk to them.
But swimming, the sport at which Kim would later excel in college and as a coach, didn't exist in the high school. As a result, her excellence in the pool occurred via the swim program at the Boise YMCA.
It all started when I was 12 years old and I was at a swimming pool in the summer. My dad was a pool manager and swim coach, and I was there all day, and I just started teaching swim lessons. Because what I wanted to do is I wanted to show other young swimmers what it's like to be able to compete and to have fun while doing it. And it was just something that was in my blood.
Kim entered Willamette University in 1976 and graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Physical Education in 1980. While her 1978-79 school year was spent abroad in England as an exchange student, she played softball for the Bearcats in 1978. But it was in the pool where she excelled, named as a Swim All-American in both 1978 and 1980. Kim Phillips spent 34 years as a physical education teacher and coach at McNary High School.
I'm hoping that people that want to get into coaching remember how I coach them, and they take something out of that so that they have the experience that I did over 30-some years.
Personal fitness, step aerobics, and weight training for women were classes that she helped develop during her tenure. Known for her use of best practices and her rapport with students, she was always a popular request for incoming student teachers hoping to join the teaching profession. While she coached volleyball from 1982 through 1987, it was 18 years in girls golf and 34 seasons in swimming where she earned her reputation as one of the best coaches in Salem-Keizer history.
Well, how about something like, I really appreciate it when people come back to me after they've been gone for 15 or 20 years and they still thank me for everything, their experiences, and hopefully what I taught them about winning and losing and teammanship and just lifelong skills.
She wrapped up her coaching career as the head swim coach at the Mid-Valley Aquatic Swim Club. Besides being awarded numerous Coach of the Year awards for swimming and golf, Phillips was also awarded the National Federation of High Schools Section 8 Swim Coach of the Year honors. She was also honored in 2012 by the Keizer Chamber of Commerce as Keizer's first citizen for service in education. Phillips' coaching record would not be complete without mentioning that she worked with 4 swimmers who were state champions, NCAA champions, and Olympic trials participants.
A perfect example of someone that swam for me that has gone on is Austin Dirks. He was a freshman. He got cut from basketball, so he came out and swam, and he didn't know how to swim. And his mom tells me now that his swimming friends are still his best friends, and it was the best thing that happened to him to come out for swimming, because it taught him how to just stay diligent and keep working hard, and he ended up in the Major League Baseball program.
And on the golf side, she coached a pair of state champions. Phillips' husband Ken is a retired administrator, teacher, and coach. Daughter Katie is a teacher, and daughter Kristen is an educator and aspiring teacher.
I believe that everybody should be involved in athletics because it helps with time management, it helps with socializing with their peers, They learn how to be gracious winners, they learn how to be gracious losers, and hopefully at the same time, they're having fun doing it.
Ladies and gentlemen, Kim Phillips. Our next school beacons are a team, LaRon and Susan Tolley from West Salem.
Successful athletic programs and schools in general need people who selflessly give of their time and effort just because they want to help. Susan and LaRon Tolley fall into that very category. They are beacons not because of their outstanding athletic or coaching exploits in Salem-Keizer, but because of what they have done to help make the student-athlete experience at West Salem High School an outstanding one.
We knew that we couldn't necessarily contribute financially to the point that we wanted to for all of the teams, but that we could contribute our time to help out, and felt that that was something that we could do.
LaRon and Susan Tolley have been married for 35 years. They met while growing up in Alberta, Canada, living in towns about 30 miles apart. Their paths cross regularly through various athletic events between rival high schools.
Well, growing up, my whole family was involved in athletics from the time that I can remember, Susan.
And so was mine.
Yeah.
Susan grew up in an avid golfing family and also participated in several competitive softball leagues both during and after high school, and in her day, she was an outstanding racquetball player. LaRon participated in most every sport available, and after high school was offered scholarships in both basketball and baseball.
We moved here from Canada, and when I was growing up, and even at the time just before we moved here, all of the sports programs, athletic programs, within the high schools, all of the coaches, everyone is volunteer. There are no paid positions, and so in order for athletics program to function, they needed volunteers, and it needed to be the whole community. There wasn't enough teachers and on school staff to fill all the positions that would volunteer.
Just before moving to Salem, the Canadian city in which they had lived previously had built a new high school. Both LaRon and Susan saw the challenges that a new school faced. When West Salem opened in 2002, their focus turned to West and how they could help the school their 4 children would probably be attending.
It was kind of the same thing. We saw, here's this new school, brand new school, but we recognized that there were going to be a lot of holes, that you don't just start out and have everything you need, uniforms and equipment for any of the athletic programs. And so we felt that volunteering was one way, as Susan said. One of the things that we could do was to give of our time.
For the next 9 years, they balanced being volunteers, boosters, and fans, along with being parents. They served another 7 years after that with no children at West Salem.
The kids are going to grow up, and a lot of them will stay in the community. And if they feel like they didn't have support when they were in high school, then it's just going to progressively cause problems down the road.
LaRon helped coach the JV and varsity boys basketball teams at West Salem High for 3 years, from 2011 through 2013. From 2001 through 2017, Susan and LaRon served in various volunteer capacities with the West Salem High School Education Foundation, even coming out of retirement this past spring to offer concessions for Titan baseball and softball. LaRon and Susan are now spending much of their free time helping coach the next generation of athletes and musicians amongst their 9 grandchildren who are now living in 3 different states.
It's important for the community to get behind the students and the kids within the community so that they know that they have the support of the community.
And ladies and gentlemen, the husband and wife team of Susan and LaRon Tolley. Our next school beacon is Dr. Malcolm Snyder.
North Salem High School has a long history of great student athletes, and Malcolm Snyder is at the top of this elite list. He was an outstanding interscholastic, collegiate, and professional athlete who used his experience and the lessons learned in athletics, as well as an outstanding education, to become one of the top orthopedic surgeons in the Pacific Northwest. Malcolm Snyder moved to Salem as a young boy and graduated from North Salem High in 1965. An outstanding student at North High, he was a member of the National Honor Society for both his junior and senior years. As an athlete, he was first-team All-Conference and first-team All-State as both an offensive and defensive tackle for both his junior and senior years. He competed in wrestling with close friend and fellow Beacon honoree Dick Belloc, winning a conference title and advancing to the state wrestling tournament during his senior year. In the spring, he lettered in track and field all 3 high school years, putting the shot for a third-place finish at the state meet his senior year.
My emphasis was in team athletics, and so it was something that I just felt very strongly about and comfortable with.
After graduation, he was chosen to participate in the highly prestigious Shriners High School All-Star football game. Following his outstanding high school career, Snyder attended Stanford University to compete in football and receive a great education.
It really didn't matter whether it was North Salem and Salem or Stanford in the Pac-8 or in the NFL. It's the success or just the participation even, but or just the activity itself carries with it that kind of energy and excitement. So it's all good.
Yeah. During his freshman year, he played both offense and defense. By his sophomore year, Snyder had settled in as a starting offensive tackle, where he remained for both his junior and senior years. At the end of his junior year, Malcolm was selected second-team All-Pac-8, and by the end of his senior season in 1968, he was first-team All-Pac-8 and named an All-American. As his collegiate career came to an end, he was named by Sporting News magazine as a first-team All-American selection, and then was selected to play in the East-West Shrine Game and at the Hula Bowl. All the while, Snyder excelled in the classroom and carried a GPA that qualified him for medical school.
I actually did all of it, but participating on a team, particularly on a team that has success, is really, it's just really fun to start with, but it also is great to have that feeling of membership and participation with other people.
Snyder had a solid career in the National Football League, playing first for the Atlanta Falcons and later for the Green Bay Packers. He eventually was accepted into medical school while playing pro ball, attending classes part-time during the season and full-time in the off-season.
That excitement is just, you don't get it anyplace else. Just when it gets that good and you're playing on a team that's that good, there's not much of anything else in life that feels like that.
He eventually received his medical degree from the University of Wisconsin and became an orthopedic surgeon, returning to his childhood home of Salem. It was here that he set up his practice, served as a team doctor for North Salem High and Willamette University, and then helped to found a program that is now Hope Orthopedics, which provides services on the sidelines for Salem-Keizer schools.
That kind of participation, I think, has just by virtue of doing it is remarkably fulfilling, and there's not much else that's like that in life as far as I'm concerned. It's not just athletics. Like I said, you could be playing in the orchestra or something else like that, but it has a reward that's unique.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Malcolm Snyder. Our next beacon is Marv Heater.
Only a handful of people who participate in athletics become so iconic that they are revered by virtually all who come in contact with them. Marv Heater is just such a person. Marv is a graduate of Newburgh High School, where he was an all-conference guard on the football team.
I was fortunate enough to be a middle-of-the-road athlete, and was able to get athletic scholarship help for my athletic work.
He attended Oregon State for his freshman year before transferring to Linfield College in McMinnville, where he became an all-Northwest Conference offensive and defensive tackle.
In fact, I always laugh about the time that I moved from high school to college. We did not have anything but nothing. there was no face mask as such. And that second year that I had moved into and playing in college, which is a smaller level college, Linfield College, we started wearing the face mask.
Coach Heater then began a new phase of his athletic career as a graduate assistant at Linfield before becoming an assistant football coach at Central High and Independence. He then became head football and track coach at Drain High School in Southern Oregon and returned to Central as head football, wrestling, and track coach in 1956.
I chose coaching because I liked to play athletics. I wasn't a great athlete, but at least I had enough Zim in me that I really enjoyed doing it.
During his 5-year run at Central, Coach Heater won 3 conference titles, and in 1960, the Panthers won the state football championship. In 1961, Marv began an 11-year stint as a PE teacher and head football coach at South Salem High School, where his teams won or shared Valley League championships 5 times. His 66 team lost to Hillsborough High in the championship game, but his 1971 team won South Salem's second state championship and the school's first outright football title. 12 of Coach Heater's Saxon players earned Division I scholarships, with standouts Jeff Hart, Bob Horn, Craig Hanneman, and Greg Speck going on to play professionally. In 1972, Heater moved into administration as athletic director at Sprague High School for 2 years, before returning for 5 years as an assistant principal at South Salem. In 1979, he became the first principal at McKay High School, retiring in 1986. With still more to offer, Coach Heater became the executive director of the Oregon High School Coaches Association in 1987 and served until his retirement in 2010. Coach Heater, together with his 66 and 71 football teams, have been inducted into the South Salem High School Hall of Fame, and to this day, at the age of 88, he serves on the Saxon Hall of Fame Selection Committee as a proud Saxon. Coach Heater has been married to his wife Jean for 66 years.
If you can build your body stronger because you have been doing and participating in athletics and sort of that have a regimen of some kind, you're going to be stronger. I think they learn to train themselves mentally in what they're doing to take care of some of the tougher tasks they have, as being whatever they're a public accountant or whatever. They train, I feel, anyway, some of the attributes that the athletes get from the training is that it does train them to condition themselves to be good athletes. And that's the good ones carry it all through life.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mara Peter. Our final school beacon comes from Sprague High School, Jamie Smith Ellis.
Who says you can't go home again? Jamie Smith not only didn't pay heed to that admonition, instead she came home and did thrive, influencing the lives of the students and players she's taught and coached.
I think the number one lifelong value that I've learned is work ethic, and just being able to work hard at anything that I do, and if I come up against an obstacle or I fail, being able to persevere and push through that.
Salem native Jamie Smith attended Sprague High School from 1991 to 1995. She was a 3-year member of the varsity cross-country team, qualifying with her team for the state meet, and played basketball as a 9th grader as well. But it was in softball where she really excelled, becoming one of the most dominant pitchers in Oregon during her days as an Olympian. During her time at Sprague, the Olies won the Valley League Championship 3 years running. In her freshman year, she led Sprague to the state semifinals, and as a junior took them to their first ever state softball final. She was first team All-Valley League from 1992 through 95, was named Valley League Pitcher of the Year in 93, and Player of the Year in 94, as well as a member of the Statesman Journal All-Region team. Smith earned all-state honors in each of her 4 high school years and pitched in the Oregon State versus Metro All-Star game after her senior year, helping her state team win each of the 4 games.
I think more than anything else, I think sports is life. I think sports, there's so many lessons through athletics about life that you can learn through sports. That are different than from in the classroom.
In the classroom, Smith was also a member of the National Honor Society while at Sprague. Post-high school, Smith was offered and accepted a softball scholarship to Division I Georgia Tech, where she played for 5 years, including a redshirt year. She garnered several conference honors for her efforts, and she left GTU second in school history for career pitching wins. Smith was on the dean's list for both her junior and senior years and graduated in 2000 with a Bachelor of Science degree in management. Upon completion of her college career, Smith returned home to Salem and Sprague High School. In 2001, she began her coaching career as an assistant coach in basketball, soccer, and softball, and started teaching at Sprague in 2004.
Challenges just seem like a part of life now, and I have the confidence to get through them.
During Smith's 3 years as a varsity assistant, Sprague's softball team won 2 Valley League championships, with the 2003 team winning Sprague's first state softball championship, a team that will be inducted this school year into the Sprague Hall of Fame. Smith became the Ole's head softball coach in 2004 and coached for the next 8 years, winning 3 consecutive championships while finishing third in state in 2005. Her 2006 team went undefeated in the Valley League at 18-0, and she was named Valley League Coach of the Year twice, as well as Central Valley Conference Coach of the Year. Jamie Smith eventually became Jamie Ellis with her marriage to husband Ike. In 2012, she stepped away from coaching to become a mom.
I have a group of boys who plays soccer, varsity soccer at Sprague, and every single one of them came up and said the thing that I value most is my family, and my family is my soccer team. My family, they challenge me in school, they challenge me in class, they're there for me when it's difficult. My coach teaches me work ethic and values on the field, and I saw that and I thought what a positive that is in their life when they don't maybe have other positives.
The 2018-19 school year is Ellis's 15th year of teaching at Sprague, where she began as a PE and health teacher. She currently teaches medical terminology and introduction to health services and has helped grow Sprague's health services program into a comprehensive sports medicine program.
My outlook on things, just understanding that this is life and this is what's going to happen, and whether it's positive or whether it's negative, I'm going to get through it.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jamie Ellis. Our next category is community beacons. They're different from those nominated and chosen by the individual schools. Community beacons are people for whom specific mascots and colors are less important than the needs of schools collectively. These beacons are successful people who have reached their status in our community by being willing to help, whether it's for community sponsorships, advertising, or any other type of donation. These are the members of our community who rarely say no to our kids. Our first community beacons, the father and son team of Dick and David Withnell.
They are best known as the faces of Salem's Withnell Motor Company, but Dick and David Withnell are a lot more than that when it comes to the local sports community. The father and son duo have donated extensive amounts of time, money, and services to athletics in the Salem-Keizer area. Dick Withnell has a deep interest in and appreciation for what athletes can offer to young people.
We're not successful per se. It's the community that's bought our goods and services. So then, and of course, we like sports. I'm kind of a wannabe guy that petered out at my senior in high school, and David played on a little bit further, right?
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit further. He won't let me forget that.
Dick was born and raised in Roseburg, where he played basketball as both a junior and senior at Roseburg High. He then attended and graduated from Linfield College in 1964. He began in the automobile business in 1980, and after establishing Withnell Dodge, he began giving back to the local community.
The esprit de corps of a community is athletics in how you operate your business, how you get up every day and be disciplined. I mean, it's just a glue.
Dick has served as a past president of the Salem Sports and Breakfast Club and the Willamette Cardinal Roundtable. Whether it be advertising at individual schools, sponsoring youth athletic teams, or providing funding for numerous school sports projects, Withnell has been one of those go-to community members. He's also used his business success to aid other causes, such as attacking methamphetamine use and supporting programs aimed at reducing poverty locally. His list of projects and the awards for his efforts is extensive. It's apparent that Dick Withnell is a leader in the Salem-Keizer community and for whom philanthropy is a passion.
I think one thing too, he knows how you handle adversity. There's a great article in the Wall Street Journal about adversity and how to be clever when you come to adversity. And so when you lose, you want to win more type of thing. And I think that's really important.
Following in the Withnell tradition, David Withnell rarely says no when it comes to supporting his community, and specifically local high school student athletes. A 1984 graduate of McKay High School, David was a 3-year varsity baseball player, earning All-League and All-State honors for his play as a second baseman. He went on to play baseball on scholarship at Linfield before deciding to study abroad in France.
Matter of fact, I can remember the time that you came to me and you said that you weren't going to be a pro baseball player anymore. You wanted to go to Paris or some ridiculous thing.
It was something like that.
Yeah.
Whether he's providing advertising to support individual high school programs, funding summer youth baseball programs, donating money for other athletic projects, donating money for high school turf fields, or coaching youth teams himself, David understands what athletics can mean to a young person and looks for ways to help ensure young people have the same experience he enjoyed.
I love sports. Dad and I are big sports fans, and I had 2 sons that were heavily involved in sports. And so when you see the kids and their ability to gel together with a really good coach in a program that has some merit, and to see what the finished product is with these young boys, it's pretty amazing.
Prior to his graduation from McKay and during his early years at Linfield, David worked in the family business before joining Withnell Motor Company full-time upon his college graduation in 1988, working his way up from a lot attendant before taking over as president of the company in 2001. David has continued the Withnell tradition of assisting local sports programs as a major donor for the field turf projects at McKay, North Salem, and South Salem high schools. His company has also contributed to the Gear Park Bike Path project and is the sole sponsor of the AAA American Legion baseball team, the Withnell Dodgers. David has also served as a Little League, Babe Ruth, and JBO baseball coach. As passionate as he is about athletics, sports is not David's sole focus. He also has served as both president and past president of the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, as well as president and past president of the Salem Police Foundation.
When you think about a kid that is playing on a sports team, they have to, well, first of all, they have to compete to make the team. They have to have personal performance. They have to work within a team setting. They probably have to overcome adversity at some point in time. And then together, then there's a win. I can't think of a better resume for an employee. And so if the kids get this at a young age, and we're involved from our financial side of it, then it's going to be better for the community from a business standpoint as well. That's the give back.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dick and David Withnell. Our final community bacon honoree for tonight, Jim Ryman.
James Jim Ryman has lived in Salem for all of his 78 years. He graduated from North Salem High School in 1958, where he played football, earning first-team all-conference honors as a center. He was also a baseball player for the Vikings. Moving on to Oregon State University, Jim played a year of football as a 5'10", 165-pound center on the freshman team under College Hall of Fame coach Tommy Prothro. Following his year at OSU, Jim moved on to Willamette University for a year. And then in 1960, at the age of 19, Jim began a career in real estate that would make him one of the most successful developers in the Salem-Keizer area. Over the course of the past 59 years, Ryman has been involved in real estate investment sales, real estate development, as well as commercial development and lending. Jim's companies have been involved in developing over 3,000 lots in the Salem-Keizer and Willamette Valley areas, including many apartment complexes and subdivisions. McNary Golf Course and the Meadows subdivision in Keizer are two of his best-known projects.
I think it's an ongoing campaign of selling the virtue of raising our kids. There's a lot of kids that need help, underprivileged, that might need more of our assistance. I think this program that's going on now about giving scholarships to kids that need help, I think is really important.
Jim has been honored as Keizer's first citizen and has been inducted into the Linfield College Athletics Hall of Fame as a key supporter for a very successful Wildcat athletic program. He has donated and built fields for Keizer Little League. He has been a significant contributor to Family Building Blocks, as well as the Boys and Girls Club of Salem.
The reason we're doing this is we love kids. There's a lot of kids that need help, and so we're there to do our part.
Ryman has also helped raise funds and provided construction management for North Salem High School's turf field and provided similar support for McNary's turf project. At OSU, Jim provided the rubber flooring for the weight room at the Valley Center, and at Linfield, he provided funding for the college's turf field, their track, the surrounding parking lot, and even the landscaping.
I think getting organized, and I'm a believer of two parts of that organization. People that have the ability to raise bulks of money, and there's that group. And there's the doers, as I call them, the people who take that money and really implement the program and do the hard work, you know. I appreciate them more than, in some respect, for a guy just writing a check, you know. I got the easy way out. Write a check and go away, you know.
Even with all of his philanthropic efforts, what brings Jim Ryman the most joy is his family. He has been married to wife Bev, whom he met at North Salem High School, for 59 years. Jim and Bev have two children, daughter Renee Gilbertson and son Steve, both graduates of McNary High School. Steve subsequently graduated from Linfield in 1989 and played football for the Wildcats' 1986 national championship team, coached by Ad Rutschman. Steve was also a two-time All-American and is a member of the Linfield Sports Hall of Fame. Jim, by the way, also is proud of his 4 grandchildren.
I was spurred on by athletics because we have a family of athletes, and you know, that was, I'll have to admit, that's a motivation, but what really got me involved was how these fields were going to be used, you know, and that excited me because I like to see people use that field. And I also think that it takes a school like North Salem and adds a little pizzazz to it, you know, to have a nice football field, a field where all the kids can use it. They have pride of ownership. And they were, you know, when we dedicated that field, they put on a special party for the people involved. And the kids were just excited, you know, and, you know, that says a lot.
And again, our final beacon from the community, Jim Ryman. How about one more round of applause for all of our beacons here this evening? At this time, I'd like to invite all 6 athletic directors from Salem-Keizer to stand up front here in front of the podium. Please don't come up here, it's too crowded. But come on up, and an award to be made by the members of the committee here on your behalf.
Before 8, that's like perfect timing. Okay. Yep. Lord, his name is Brody Kavai.
Again, don't try to cash these things at the bank. They'll probably bounce. But they do represent contributions being made to each high school on behalf of their athletic programs. And congratulations to all of you for being such an important part of our students' communities. Yeah, you guys can read those later. All right. Again, a thanks to you for coming here tonight, but a reminder about the function down in the boardroom downstairs, but just as importantly, and this is a soft sell, so nobody's going to come by and grab your wallets from you, but we do have cards that you can fill out as a donation. Okay, it looks something like this, and if you can't see it from where you're sitting, sorry, just look on your table. You can look at those. You can fill out the cards and put it in an envelope. You can take the card with you. You can also pay with your own credit card. If you go and contact a board member, they can help you set that up. Don't worry, it's whatever amount you want it to be, not what they want it to be. But I know that I can speak on behalf of the board here that what you contribute here will go a long ways into helping out a lot of our students in the Salem-Keizer community. And so we ask you to thoughtfully consider what you might want to contribute, and thanks in advance for whatever you might want to do. But don't forget, head on down to the boardroom, down one floor, and you can pick up on the conversations you began before dinner began. We thank you for all being here tonight, and we hope that this becomes an equally real, exciting, and successful event. Tell your friends. Thank you very much.